Most people treat AI like a fancy search engine. They type in a question, they get an answer back. Now that's fine, but it becomes significantly more useful when you start using it for automations and workflows. Now that's because AI is really good at handling dynamic information, and it can follow along with steps that you give it a lot better and actually more reliably than if you were to just code something out in Python, make an n8n workflow, Zapier automation, etc. So in this video, I want to teach you what AI workflows and automations are, and then how you can build them on your own. We're going to build 3 automations in this video. You can see timestamps down below for where we do that. And we're going to use a tool called Genspark, which removes any of the technical complexity. So even if you don't know how to code or you're not technical, you can follow along. And by the end of this video, you'll have some real workflows that automate repetitive tasks for you. Anyways, let's get started. So I want to begin by breaking down what AI automation actually is. Now, in order to do that, there's 2 terms that we need to define: deterministic and undeterministic. Now, deterministic means that given the same input, you always get the same output. And deterministic automations are things that we're probably all familiar with. For example, anytime a Google Sheet row is updated, we automatically send a message in Slack. Or when a prospect books a meeting on my calendar, I get a notification to my WhatsApp. These are things that are always the exact same, and you can create them pretty easily by actually writing code. I can write a Python script that says, hey, anytime I get an email, send me a notification here. Or anytime the email says the word accounting, send it over to my account. These are deterministic automations because it's following some kind of set rule, right? Given some input, you always get the exact output. And this is where platforms like Zapier, Make, n8n really shine, is building these deterministic automations where when X happens, Y occurs. Now this is great, but in the modern world, there's a lot of flexibility and kind of dynamic content that we're dealing with. And oftentimes it can be hard to build deterministic automations because there's so many different what we call edge cases. Edge cases are kind of weird situations that could occur that we can't necessarily think of up front. Now this is where we start talking about undeterministic automations. These are automations that use some kind of AI or LLM at least for one of the steps. So for example, in a deterministic situation, maybe we get a new email, we check if that email says the word receipt, and if it does, we upload it to Google Drive. Now that will always work, right? Whenever it says receipt, it always uploads it to Google Drive. However, we might get an email that is a receipt, but it just doesn't say that word. Well, in that situation, our automation isn't going to run because it didn't find that particular string. If we move to an undeterministic automation, rather than checking if the email says receipt, we actually just give the email to some kind of LLM, and we tell the LLM, hey, analyze this email and tell me if it's a receipt. And then it gives us a result. If it's a receipt, we upload it to Google Drive. If it's not, we skip it. This is undeterministic because we don't know exactly what's going to happen when we run this flow, and it relies on the judgment of the LLM. But this allows us to have a really dynamic workflow that's going to work in more situations because it can handle dynamic content. Something that is a receipt but just doesn't say the receipt keyword, or that's in a random format that we can't really reproduce into some kind of pattern. Hopefully that makes sense, but we have, again, deterministic automations. That's where, again, Make, Zapier, all of those platforms really shine. And then we have undeterministic automations where we're using some kind of LLM as one of the steps. We don't know exactly what we're going to get, but typically it can handle a more dynamic situation. And you've probably run into this before if you've tried to build an automation on your own. So in this video, that's what we're focusing on, the undeterministic automations, or AI workflows, or AI automations, where you use an LLM as one of the steps. Now, when we build an AI automation or we build an AI workflow, there's a few key components that we should be aware of that I want to dive into now, and then we'll start building them. So the first part of any workflow or automation is the trigger. Now, a trigger can be some kind of an event. So for example, an email is received, a booking is triggered or put on the calendar, or it can be some kind of time-based thing. So every day at 7 a.m., every Sunday, right? Just something to trigger the automation to actually run. When one condition happens, run the automation. That's the trigger, right, at the beginning of the automation. Now, the next part of the automation is the task. So what is it that we actually want to do? What's the goal? What's the achievement? What's the result that we're trying to automate? The next part is an LLM, or large language model. Now this could be anything. It could be OpenAI, could be an Anthropic model, could be Minimax, could be DeepSeek, doesn't matter, but we need something that's capable of reasoning, and we use a large language model for that. And then the last part of any automation is typically tools or services. These are things that the LLM can use to actually achieve some kind of result. So maybe reading through email, maybe going to Google Docs and creating something, maybe checking your meta ad data, whatever. There's all these different tools and integrations. In order for a workflow to be useful, we have to have at least one or two of those in the workflow so that we can pull the data, we can take some action, we can do something. So again, to summarize, we have some kind of trigger, we have a task, we have the LLM, which is kind of like the brain, and then we have some kind of tools, services, APIs, whatever that we can call out to and we can use. Now, in order for us to make AI automations, we need these four things and we need them in one place. Now, you could code them out completely from scratch on your own, or you can use a platform that just provides it for you. So for this video, like I mentioned, I'm going to be using something called Genspark. Now, Genspark is a free AI workspace. You don't need to pay to use it. I'll leave a link to it in the description. They've kindly sponsored this video, but they make it very easy to create AI workflows. And whether you want to use this tool or not, I'm going to show you the overall process of designing one using this tool. The reason for that is because they have a workflow editor where you can literally in natural language just describe what you want, and you can connect different nodes to each other and have all of those different tools, the LLM step, the trigger, all of the stuff that I discussed. Anyways, let's dive into it and let me show you how to build some individual AI workflows. All right, so let's get started by building these AI workflows. Now, like I mentioned, I'm using Genspark. If you want to follow along with it, you can do it for free from the link in the description. You, of course, can use any platform you want. Just make sure that you have all of those features that I talked about previously. And importantly, you have that LLM step. Now, the way that Genspark works specifically is that it orchestrates all of the tools as well as the various different LLMs. So you could actually just chat with their general super agent here, and it will automatically route your request to the correct AI model based on what you're asking it to do. So you have cheaper models, you have OpenAI models, you have Anthropic models, it's all in here. And then if you go to this where it says connectors, you can connect to all of these different tools, which we're going to do for the workflows. So in my case, I've already connected to Gmail, but I can connect to the Google Suite, Calendar, Drive, Notion, whatever. A bunch of stuff here, and then we can use all of these as tools or services inside of our workflow. Anyways, in order to build the workflow, I'm going to go over to the Workflows tab here, and I'm just going to go and create a new workflow. You also notice that there's some templates here if you want to look through them, but we're just going to go from scratch because I want to show you how to build it without working off of a pre-existing template. Okay, so inside of the workflows here, first thing we can do is select the model or the mode that we want for this. Now, I recommend just keeping it at standard, but if you want like really high intelligence and you're doing something really complicated, probably go up to ultra. If you're doing something super simple that you just want to run really quickly, then go with the light mode. So once we've selected kind of the AI mode here, the next thing that we want to do is figure out the task that we're going to be automating. Now, I'm going to go through 3 workflows or 3 automations in this video. The first that we're going to build is kind of a daily email digest as well as auto drafting. So effectively what we're going to do is look through all of the previous emails that we had in the last period. We can say, 24 hours or something like that. Look at maybe any unread ones. We're then going to send a summary at a certain time. So I'll explain how that works in a second. That tells us all of the emails that are urgent that we need to reply to, ones that we can ignore, things that we should be aware of, essentially just gathering all of the information and giving it to us in one clean summary rather than us having to manually go through all of the emails. My rationale here is that I get probably 100 emails per day, maybe 5 or 10 of them I need to reply to, the rest of them are kind of just junk. So rather than me having to manually look through all of them, we can set up this workflow to automatically do that for us and then draft various replies, at least to the simple emails that we can just press send on or we can copy and paste. That's the basic idea. Let's get started. Okay, so at this point, we now kind of have the task. We know what it is we need to do. Now we need to start looking into the tools that we're going to need for this particular workflow. We also need to think of the trigger. So I'm going to go to starter, and for the starter, I'm going to start by choosing on a schedule. Now, on a schedule allows us to pick a particular time and kind of repetition period that we want to run this on. So for example, maybe I want to start tomorrow, I want to start at 9 a.m., and I want to repeat this every single day. So I'm just going to select daily, but you can set this to be whatever schedule you want. So now this will run every day at 9 a.m. That's easy, that's our trigger. Otherwise, we could set up like when we get an email or something, but for now, we'll just do it on a daily trigger. Next, we have actions. Now, if you scroll down here, you'll see there's a bunch of different tools that we can use, but in order for us to use these tools, we do need to set up our connectors. So if we go here to this plus button, you'll see connectors, and then we can go to the add button and we can add different connectors. So what we're going to need to connect for this one to work is simply Gmail, and then I'm also going to connect Google Docs or Google Drive as well. So just to make it easy, I'll just connect the full Google Suite by just pressing install, and I'm going to sign into the Google account that I want to use here. Okay, so now we should be connected. You can see if you go to connectors, we have a few here. So we have Google Drive, Calendar, Gmail, etc., Google Contacts. I also have Notion, but we're not going to use that one for this step. Now, the next thing we need to do is add a step. So the first step that we'll go with here is going to be Gmail, right? Because every day at 9 a.m., what do I want to do? Well, I want to pull through my email. Now you notice there's a bunch of stuff here, so you can look through and see which one's going to be most relevant. But for us, we're going to want to probably search emails. So we're going to go with search emails. And you'll notice that it's now going to give us kind of this AI instruction, or the instruction that we're going to pass to the AI, which is going to be executing this step. So we're going to say search emails, and then we have to do the specific details. So search for emails matching specific criteria, use Gmail search operators, etc., etc., etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this, and we're going to, in natural language, describe what it is that we actually want to search for in our emails. Now, by the way, all of the instructions and prompts that I put here, I'll leave in the description in case you guys want to copy them, but I'm just going to kind of verbally speak into the microphone and describe what I want. So I'm going to say the following: search for all of the emails that were received in the last 24 hours. And that's it. So I'm just saying, hey, we're going to use this tool and then search for all the emails that were received in the last 24 hours. That's step one of our workflow. That's all we need to do. Okay. Next, we're going to go to the next step. Now for step two, we're going to ask AI to categorize all of the emails for us. So in order to do that, we're going to put the ask Genspark step, which is kind of a general LLM step that can do anything that we want. So we're going to go ask Genspark. We use ask, and then what we're going to do, same thing, is describe what we want here. So let's just go back into this, and we're going to say, categorize all of the emails that were received. I want to have them by priority. I want 3 priority levels: high, medium, and low. And I want you to take every email and put it into one specific category. Okay, so you can see it's given us the prompt here. And what we're doing is we're searching all the emails. We're going to categorize them using the LLM, and then we're going to move to the next step. Now for the next step, we're going to use Ask Genspark again. And this time we're now going to take any of the emails and we're going to determine which ones actually need a reply. Now you can do this in many different formats, but what I'm doing is kind of multi-steps here. So the first step is, hey, categorize them. The second step is then going to be identify which ones need a reply. So we're going to say here, categorize all of the emails as either needs reply or doesn't need reply. Boom, and that's it. Now we move to the next step, and the next step is going to be to draft the replies, and then the final step will be to give us kind of a nice format. So we're going to go with one more step here, and we're going to say, for the emails that need a reply, automatically draft a reply and then send that to me in the next message. Okay, and then we're going to go to one last step. Same thing, we're going to go with Ask Genspark again. Now for this last step, and actually I lied, there's going to be one more after this because I want to save this to Google Drive. I'm going to say, give me a report of the information that was consolidated above. I want to know which emails are high, medium, and low priority. And then for the emails that need a reply, send me the draft that you think that I should send. Do not send the emails, just give me a draft and put this in kind of a report format so that every morning I can look at it and understand which emails need my attention. Okay, so that's what we're going to do in this step. And then we're going to add one last step here. From this one, I'm actually going to go to create document. So we're going to create a new Google document. Now from here, we don't need to select any files because we're going to be creating a new one. But what I'm just going to say is, as the instructions, take the report that was generated in the previous step and save it to a new Google document with today's date so that we have a history of all of the different scans. And that's it, just so we're going to upload this to Google Drive and we'll just test that to make sure that it works. Okay. So there we go. We have 6 steps now in the workflow. Now I built this manually, but we also could have just chatted with the AI here and then it can build it for us. We'll do that for the next workflow. But what we're going to do now is just test run this to make sure that it works. And you'll be able to see the full workflow here with all of the content that needs to run, all of the files, skills, etc. And if you want to upload any context, you can do that by connecting to different files or uploading them from your local computer. So let's test run this and see what happens in our workflow. We should be able to go through step by step. Okay, so it took a minute or two here, but the workflow is now complete and it's given me the full kind of summary of what I asked for. Now, I need to be a little bit careful here. I need to blur most of this because it is actually from my real email that I'm showing you here. So I had some real results. But if I scroll through, you can see that I've gotten emails from, a bunch of different platforms. It said, here's high priority stuff that you need to be aware of. And it sees which ones need a reply. If we scroll down, we have medium priority. I was just selling a course recently. So some people were, asking me about that, etc. And then some low priority ones here as well. Okay. So again, editors, please blur some of this stuff because especially the email addresses, we shouldn't reveal people's info. And then if I go to Google Drive, we can see that it's actually created a Google document for me. I just pulled it up. And again, let's blur a lot of this. If I scroll down, let me try to find a draft reply. You can see that there is like a reply that it's saying I should give to Hostinger because I canceled one of my VPSs, for example. I received a notification that my subscription was canceled. Can you confirm what I should do? Thank you, Tim. And there's a bunch of other drafts that were automatically created for me for the emails that needed a reply. Okay, that is workflow 1. Let's move to the next one. Oh, and just by the way, obviously you need to turn this on if you want it to run every single day, and you can toggle it on and off and then see the history of this as you are using the workflow. So you can also change the name up here to be like, daily email digest. You get the idea, but let's move to the next one. Okay, so for the next workflow, I want to do something a little bit more complicated. Same thing, I want this to run every single day, but what I wanted to do is actually some competitor analysis. And this is pretty common and something you would probably do if you're running any type of business. Now, in my case, I run a content business. I'm making all kinds of content. So what I want to do is I want to search through YouTube. I want to search through the web. I want to see trending news, and I want to see the content that's performing well so that I can make my own version of it. So that's kind of the task, but now we need to identify the trigger. So we'll just run it every day, and then the tools that we want to use. So if I go to actions here, we just quickly have a look at the tools that are available. You'll see that we do have YouTube transcript is available, YouTube search is available, web crawler, we have audio generator. Okay, we don't need those ones. Google search. We have the ability to use Google Sheets. So probably because we're going to have some data, we want like view counts and stuff. So probably want that in Google Sheets. If we keep scrolling, we have some other ones available. Maybe we want to upload this in Notion. Maybe we want to search on Twitter as well. And then there's some other info here as well. Okay, so I kind of have a sense of the tools that we're going to use. We need to use some of the YouTube related ones because that's mostly what I want to search. And then probably I want to upload this to Google Sheets. However, rather than me having to manually actually set all of these steps here, I can just describe what I want to the Genspark agent. It will automatically build the workflow out for us, then we can adjust it as needed. So let me kind of ramble a prompt here into Genspark, and hopefully it can create something for us. I want to create a daily competitor research report. I want this to run every day at 7 a.m. And what I would like to do is go on YouTube and search for OpenClaw, Hermes agent, and AI automation content. I want to identify at least 5 channels per day that are doing this type of content and save that to a unique Google Sheet and start building a database of content creators that do this type of content. For all of those creators, I would like to know their subscriber count. Additionally, I want to see what videos are performing that day, and I want to have maybe 10 of those videos and upload those all to a Google Sheet so that I understand what content is performing well, what the view counts are, what the title of the video is, what the description and the link to the video is, and I want to start building this kind of database of AI content on YouTube. That's the workflow that I would like to build it. Again, not the best prompt in the world. I probably could be a little bit more structured here, but that's generally kind of what I wanted to do. And now I can press enter and hopefully this will go ahead and build out that workflow for me. Now, while it's doing that, I'm also thinking that for the top performing videos, I probably want to get the transcript of those so that I can have kind of a summary of like maybe what they're using for the hook. So I'm just going to have another prompt that I'll wait to trigger. For the top performing videos, I would also like to add a step where we pull the transcript and we save the transcripts as Google documents that we can use later. Okay, cool. So we'll just have that set up and we'll send that after it kind of runs through this and does the setup. Okay, so we just finished building this out. You can see that it's automatically set this up and we can go and see all of the steps that it's using. You'll notice that it just actually writes the name of the skills that it's going to be using inside of here and kind of what to call and what to do. And then of course we can adjust things as we test this out to make sure that it's working. Okay, so we have those 6 steps. I also just gave it the next prompt here because I wanted to do this YouTube transcript stuff. So we'll wait for that to finish, then we'll test this out and make sure it's working. Okay, so the workflow is not quite done yet, but it's running it like to test it. And I just wanted to show you what's being created. So you can see we have some YouTube transcripts. So this is like a Fireship video published 4 months ago and gave us the full YouTube transcript. If we go look, we have a full Google Sheet here with all of the information, or this is like the database of creators that it's going to keep building on. Then we go top AI performing videos. You can see there's 15 videos here. It gives us the view count, publish date, duration, video URL, description, search query, and the date captured. Pretty good, I would say, so far. Obviously, it's not yet finished, but we'll give it a second here to fully finish this out. And then, of course, we can test run it or we can just turn it on. But generally, I'm confident that it's going to work because, well, I see the content that's generating in real time here from Google Drive. Okay, nice. So just finished the workflow here. You can see that it was just editing it, and now we have all of the different steps. Again, I'm going to put all of these in the description in case you want to copy them and use the exact workflow that I have. But now, of course, we can test it, but I kind of just did test it because it went and built everything, and I'm confident it's working. So if we're good, we can just turn it on. Otherwise, we can look through the workflow, files, skills, all of this kind of stuff. Now, let's move on to the final workflow. All right, so let's move on to our final workflow. Now for this workflow, I want to do something that's kind of like lead research. So the idea is that I want to go and search for a particular type of company. Let's go with kind of like AI SaaS companies that recently raised money. And then I want to go find information about them and rank them in terms of their likelihood to buy a YouTube sponsorship. That's at least what I'm going to do because that's a business that makes sense to me and that I currently run. But of course, you could set this up to do whatever you want. Now, the idea is that I'll do all of this, then I'll also connect it to Slack so that it can send me a Slack message with leads that I should reach out to with all of their contact details. So same thing, I'm just gonna kind of prompt what I want. It's always a good idea to have a look at the tools available so you know what you can actually do. But in this case, we should be able to go and get URL metadata. We should be able to take screenshots of web pages. We should be able to batch crawl the web. We can do batch web search to find that information. Of course, we already know about Sheets. That will work. We have Slack as well, so we'll be able to connect to Slack. In order to do that, I will need to set up the connector here. So I think I already have it in a workspace actually, but let me click into Slack. We can kind of uninstall it and reinstall it just so I can run through that flow with you. So let's go Slack, let's uninstall, and let's reinstall it so I can show you how we add this. Okay, so I just need to pick my Slack workspace, then I just have to approve this application, and then it should just show up in Slack and be able to message us there. Okay, let's go back to workflows, and let's build this out. I'd like to create a lead research pipeline / automation. I want to run this every single day. And what I want to do is search for AI SaaS companies that recently raised money. I'm looking for relatively small companies that have between 10 to 50 different employees. For every single company, I would like you to do information about them or do research about them, find the contact address specifically for sponsorships, collaborations, or just any general contact kind of email address that I could use. And then I would like you to rank these as leads as they pertain to a company that might buy a YouTube sponsorship for the Tech with Tim YouTube channel. These are typically educational-based companies, open source companies, companies that have some kind of software, some kind of AI agent tool, etc. So again, to summarize, I want you to go do this research, find companies that recently raised money, find the contact information about them, rank them as a lead. Let's rank them out of 1 to 5. And then I want you to send me a report every day on Slack of the top 5 companies that I should be reaching out to with a quick template message I could send them. Okay, so I know it's a long prompt, but I'm just giving you an idea of what it is that I want to do. Let's hit enter and let's see it build out this workflow and see what we get. Okay, so it built out the workflow. I'm just doing a test run right now. If we look at the steps, we can see step 1, search for recently funded AI SaaS companies. Step 2, research each candidate company. Step 3, score each company as a sponsorship lead. Step 4, select the top 5 and write the outreach template. Step 4, and then step 5, format and send the Slack report, and step 6, write the output file. Now you'll notice in Slack, if you go there, I gotta blur some of the channels here, that it should have a Genspark application once you installed that using the step I showed you previously. So this is where you should get the report. We'll obviously test and make sure that works, so let's wait for this to finish and I'll be right back. Okay, so it finished the workflow. For some reason, it's not sending it in Slack, so we'll look at debugging that, but we can see that it's pulled out a bunch of options here, Kylo code, e2b.dev, LanceDB. I've actually heard of some of these, so it looks like it's working fairly well. And we've got the full ranking here of some other companies in terms of product fit, budget, all of that kind of stuff. Cool, so because this isn't working in terms of the Slack, we'll get out of this and I'll just simply tell it that and hopefully it will fix it. Okay, so actually it was sending, however, it was just sending it as a DM to myself, so I wasn't getting the notification. So it just told me, hey, it is sending, and you can see now we get the report in my own DMs. Okay, cool, so that was working. You can see all the previous stuff that I did with Genspark just looks like, again, it DMs yourself, not the Genspark app, which I thought it was going to send to. Okay, so it looks like we are all good to go, and that's gonna wrap up the final workflow. Okay, so last thing here, if you're wondering about the usage and the pricing, you can do this for free. You can sign up and get a bunch of free credits. You don't need to pay for this, but then obviously if you run through those credits, you will need a premium account here in Genspark. I went and I checked out my usage. I've hardly used anything at all, and again, I don't even think the workflow counts towards that, but if it does, it uses a very small amount of credits. And from what I understand, you just get unlimited use of this as long as you have any paid subscription. So that's it, guys. It's gonna wrap up the video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.